Welcome everybody for this afternoon or morning or evening, whatever you are in the world. Today we're gonna talk about how to make a start with Agile Framework, SAFe specifically. And this webinar today is brought to you by the Agile Thinkers, Ratak Portugal, eShop World, and the Scaled Agile. So thank you first of all to our supporters, our sponsors, to everybody coming in right now to support this webinar, and to talk just a little bit about Agile Thinkers, the main sponsor of this event. Agile Thinkers is focusing on 5 different areas, from education to consulting, also in the academies, which is a new product that we are bringing to the market for upskilling and reskilling your knowledge. And the events like this one, webinars, mostly webinars about new ways of working, and also one of the biggest conferences in the world called Experience Agile that I have just some news about it. And the university side, which is the academic part that we work. It's part of our DNA to also help students coming into the industry, and also helping postgraduates, masters, and undergraduates getting into the market. Regarding our conference, Experience Agile Week, just some fresh news for everybody. Early birds are online since yesterday. Grab your ticket at experienceagile.org. The Experience Agile Week will happen between the 25th of September till the 29th of September. We'll start with the World Agility Forum, which is a global program for individuals and organizations that are bringing commitment and efforts to initiatives in achieving business agility. The Agile Human Factors is focused on bringing the human-centric perspective, teams before frameworks, which is a very important topic nowadays, and then the Experience Agile, which is basically everything executive and managers needs to know about agility, methods, and framework. So, like I was saying, grab your ticket at experienceagile.org. We started yesterday with the early bird. Well, with no further ado, I'm your host for today, David. I'm speaking from Lisbon, Portugal. Welcome everybody. I have the opportunity and pleasure to be here because, well, I'm in love with this area, this industry, these topics. And during the last years, I've been working with a couple of teams in the R&D departments, also in product development with UK, Ireland, France, and Portuguese startups. And since I strongly believe that organizations must aim to develop products and services that bring a smile to their customers, I'm working with Agile Thinkers in that way to help them reach that. With this out of the way, let's present the panel for today, lovely panel that we have here for how to make a start with SAFe. We start with Neru Abrai, certified SPCT experience transformation coach. Who has led and delivered a range of large-scale, complex business transformation programs. Neru is responsible for establishing high-performance, diverse teams with clear roles and accountabilities to deliver quality IT solutions and championing the drive for excellence. Most recently, Neru has supported WorldPay and Vodafone to transform their agile practices with measurable improvements. Then we have Magdalena Shepleigh, an agile enthusiast and practitioner since 2009. Throughout her career, she wore many hats, from being a product owner to managing execution of agile teams as VP product delivery. She mostly enjoyed helping a company to transform this way of working and the mindset from a waterfall to an agile one. She's currently working for eShop World, one of our supporters for today, as a VP Lean Agile Center of Excellence. And she will talk a little bit about that. Where she's implementing Scaled Agile Framework and providing agile leadership to product, technology, and business functions. And last but not the least, we have Inbar Oren, that has already more than 20 years of experience in the high-tech market, working in small and large enterprises, as well as a range of roles from development and architecture to executive positions. Previous clients include Cisco, Amdocs, Intel, and CR, and Inbar is working as a principal contributor to SAFe, Scaled Agile instructor and consultant, And Embark current focus is on working with leaders at the program, value stream, portfolio levels to help them bring most of their organization, build new process and culture. So we are ready to start. Feel free to use the chat Q&A option in the lower part of your screen. If you have any question, we'll be monitoring that during the session. And also, without further ado, and let's start, I will stop sharing my screen now so we can focus on the topic for today. And well, my first question is for Neru. So what do you mean by transformation?
Thank you, David. So customers have a greater expectation today. They have many more choices available to them, and they want a very personalized service that's typically hassle-free as an experience. And Dr. McKirsten, who wrote the book Project to Product, and I'm sure many of you will know of this, he says that to remain competitive, enterprises need to digitally transform their operations, their business solutions, and their customer experience. So really a transformation is made up of business and technology together. And to do this, as Dr. Mick says, we need to understand how value flows end-to-end across the organization and not just look at pockets in silos. He cites a really good example in his book. He cites many superb examples, but one he specifically raises of a bank in the UK where the IT unit celebrated great success in their agile transformation. They moved from being a very waterfall practice to an agile way of working, delivering faster and to higher quality. And whilst the IT department felt that the transformation was a success, from a business perspective, it wasn't seen as a success. And that's because the business side felt that what we hadn't looked at, or they hadn't looked at, was the bottlenecks upstream and downstream as part of that flow of value. So really, an organization's transformation is much more broader and strategic than just changing the technical delivery practices. And that concept of end-to-end flow of value includes the entire process of value delivery to the customers. So, for example, value doesn't start with product management defining the features. It encompasses the whole function from early in the framework, possibly even from when the business strategy and the ideation is formed, all the way through to analyzing the feedback from your customers' adoption. And the IT delivery is part of that value delivery flow. So whether you're thinking of sales, marketing, procurement, finance, legal, HR, in some way or other, they all are stakeholders in that delivery of value, and therefore they are part of that transformation. And the outcome of evaluating and designing that end-to-end flow would typically be the creation of a virtual network of people who are working together, who are collaborating and are involved in that process. And in the SAFE framework, we reference this as the value stream. So further part of the transformation, because you don't just deliver the transformation and walk away from it, the transformation isn't really complete until the sustainability of it is there. Because you're working with people and people at all levels of the organization, we need to also, as part of the transformation, think differently, behave differently, be more collaborative, for example. We may need to think of the funding models from an accounting perspective. As an organization, you may want to think as a whole about what are the priorities of the organization. Have this whole mindset of wanting to continuously improve the flow end to end. And therefore, we cannot underestimate, as part of the transformation, the whole behavior shift that's required, and think about rewiring of our business thinking to sustain the transformation. So in summary, what I would say is that at the highest level of transformation is about understanding that end-to-end flow of value across the organization, building that network of new ways of working to deliver the value, and also sustaining it in an embedded way so that the behavior changes are not overlooked, because that mindset and culture shift are also equally important.
Thank you, Neru. Awesome. And Magdalena, when did you get to the point of wanting to scale Agile and choose that framework?
Sure. Hi, David. Hi, everyone. I'm delighted to be here. So welcome, everyone from anywhere you are in the world. So just to answer your question, for us, the need to scale and choose a framework has been building up for quite some time. You know, it was building up. It just wanted to burst. Basically, we got to our own tipping point as an organization where we didn't really have much choice, but we needed to do something about it. We needed to do something about the situation we were in before it got any worse. So let me just give you a little bit of context to our situation. So eShop World is a very fast-growing technology company. We're based in Ireland, in Dublin. And in the last 3 years, we pretty much more than tripled in size. So back in 2018, we had 7 agile teams, about 150 employees. Today we have 30 teams, 30, and over 500 people. So that's tripled in size in 3 years. And if you look at those 7 teams that we had back in 2018, yes, they were doing some Scrumish. They had some lean agile practices in place. At a team level, you know, they were doing fine, but between the teams, you could see that those practices were quite inconsistent. In some cases, maybe somehow ineffective. But most of all, those teams would work in silos. And now imagine that the company starts to grow, and it starts to grow really fast. Like, we're getting more and more clients, and we have to recruit more people. So we start recruiting, we start standing up more teams. We basically run out of desks and office space. So suddenly you can feel that the pace just picked up so much that from the delivery point of view and managing execution, we basically weren't able to effectively cope with it. The demand was getting higher and higher, and everything was getting more and more urgent. Everything was for yesterday. We kept getting loads of ad hoc requests, you know, all the plans that teams would do during iteration planning, yeah, they didn't really work anymore because, sorry, priorities have changed and now this is important, so please can you deliver it now? You could just feel the chaos. And because the priorities kept changing, the roadmap wasn't really there to follow, and therefore the backlog wasn't very healthy. As we grew in size, the communication also became more and more difficult. We weren't really aligned as a management team because there wasn't really a plan to follow. So, you know, with the poor communication, poor alignment, lack of plan, the whole rush and pace meant that there was a lot more issues. So management basically ran around firefighting. And that's not what you want management to do. You want management to lead. You want them to fulfill their leadership positions, not to run around like headless chickens and firefight. So yes, everyone was working super hard, and there's no doubt about that. But it was just really difficult to see any real progress being made. It felt very chaotic. It was very reactive. We were reactive because we wanted to react quickly to customer needs. And yes, we did try to fix the process here and there. Maybe, you know, I tried something a little bit over here and somebody else tried a little bit over there. But it was more of like a side of the desk exercise, if you know what I mean. It wasn't a coordinated effort, and this didn't really work. So we needed a framework. We just needed to have an end-to-end process that would put some structure in place, that would help us to communicate, that would help us to get aligned, that would help us to plan better. And then in the summer 2019, the decision was made that we're going to put a scaling framework in place. We were going with SAFe. And in October 2019, we ran our very first training session. We set up a dedicated LACE team, and things picked up from there. So in February 2020, which is just over a year ago, we ran our first planning session. And yeah, things are just a lot different today.
Great. We'll like to know more about the Lean Agile Center of Excellence, but we'll know a little bit more about that in the further questions. So, Inbar, welcome. We have a question for you, which is, what are the most important steps, that we have to get it right before a Scaled Agile, a safe implementation roadmap exists?
Well, I think the safe implementation roadmap pretty much details the steps that you have to take. It kind of assumes that you're starting at a point of where you are. You might be doing waterfall, you might be doing ad hoc agile. It doesn't really assume so much. So I don't think I would spend so much time looking at what do you need to do before the implementation roadmap, but what do you need to do to start the implementation roadmap. And I think what we've learned over this is that the important part, as Magda said, is getting some of the leadership involvement in it. Before that, when I was running transformation, even at scale, before I started doing SAFe, it was mostly about let's train the teams, and leaders, they'll either get it or let's push them out of the way. That never works. So really, I think the focus at the beginning is making sure we have the leadership buy-in, making sure we're aligned on that, making sure we're building, and Magda will probably talk about it more around the Lean Center of Excellence, understanding how we're going to organize around value, and then which ties to a lot of the concept that Nero was talking about. And then I think a really important part is making sure that we know why we're doing it. So I see a lot of places where they're starting a transformation, they're not setting very concrete goals, or they're setting goals that they don't have no idea what they mean. Like, we want to improve productivity. Great. How are you measuring productivity? We have no idea. Well, then I don't know how you improve it. They are not spending enough thinking where they are right now and how are we going to take it further, and really thinking about that. And I think for me, that's part of the things that in the beginning of a transformation is really important, really focusing on building that leadership, building that engagement, and driving that, as well as, I think we have this on the implementation roadmap, but I think it's often missed. We have like a logo of partners there. If you're running with implementations and you're doing it alone, and you don't have people who've already gone there, I'm not saying you couldn't do it, but it will be a very hard, treacherous road, and you'll probably get it wrong. So I think one of the most important things is get somebody to help you, find somebody that you can relate to, and have them take the track with you, as otherwise you are likely to fail.
Yeah, so basically leadership buy-in and the help from partners to set up that roadmap, right?
And the definition of what does success look like.
Yeah, of course, because otherwise you'll not know where you're gonna reach and when you're gonna stop and try to reflect about that.
Exactly.
Getting back to Magdalena, so talking about the Lean Agile Center of Excellence, how was your experience at the shop world?
First of all, it's been a lot of fun. So
I believe.
I think it's fair to say that LACE is still kind of in the process of creation. Yes, we've existed for over a year now, and we are an established function within the company. We've got our place. We sit currently within technology. We're reporting to the CIO, but really we could report anywhere. We could report to anyone or no one really, because we are an enabler team. We enable change to happen. We exist to work and collaborate with everyone across the business. That's what we're here to do. So I think the reason why I said that I believe that we're kind of still in the process of creation is because our focus as a LACE team has changed several times since we were first appointed in October 2019. So our very first kind of task was to get SAFe implemented, get trains launched into eShop world. So we had about 2.5 months to do it, a pretty strict budget as well. And that was the first task, basically. Get the backlog ready, get the people ready, so to get all of the training and all of the coaching done, and get the logistics ready too. So for our first planning, we were bringing everyone from all over the world into a face-to-face big planning session. So that was the first focus for Leigh's team. Then we wore a hat of an RTE for our very first PI planning session and for our first PI. It just happened that the newly recruited RTE was just through the door, and they needed to observe us. So Lace stepped up, and we put a hat of RTE, and we were an RTE for the first PI planning session and for the first entire PI. So that was our next kind of focus that we had. Then after that, we gathered all of the feedback, and we had already a lot of feedback from the participants of the process. We gathered all of that feedback, and we created our LACE backlog. We created our LACE roadmap, and we knew what we wanted to accomplish when, more or less, but we were always open to change. We were agile, basically. So we knew, for example, that around Q4 2020, we wanted to start implementation of portfolio SAFe. We knew that towards the end of the year, we also wanted to start engaging with the business teams and start implementing SAFe into the business teams. But before we could even think about that, we wanted to get teams and arts to the place where they would be quite self-sufficient, where they would get it, where they wouldn't need as much hand-holding. So for the first kind of 3 PIs, so a period of about 30 weeks, we would be just working very closely with teams, making sure that all of these processes are really bedding in. So for us, it's really a journey. It's been a fantastic journey. There's a lot more to come. We're constantly planning, constantly reviewing, constantly adapting and listening to feedback and improving our ways of working.
Yeah, awesome story. Thank you for sharing with us, with the audience. It's very inspiring. But I have one question here for Neru, because it's not all about unicorns and rainbows. Also, you have some issues, some anti-patterns. So which one you can mention, which anti-pattern you can find about when adopting Agile at scale?
Particularly to me is that organizations, you just unmuted me, have you? Thank you, beg your pardon. One that comes to mind regularly is that organizations cannot have a transformation done to them. It isn't enough for an organization to bring coaches and consultants, the likes of Imbar or myself, into the organization, hand the baton over and say, in quotes, make us agile. That just doesn't work. The organization needs to lead the transformation themselves. And we're essentially, as coaches, helping them, laying the path out for them, shaping the ways they need to do things, bringing the experience with us of what's worked, what's not worked. So the leaders can't have a mindset that it's not important for them to be trained. They do need to be trained. They need to put the time in to understand the lean and agile and the science behind it. And whilst, yes, the very senior leaders in the organization may only give 5-10% of their time and be part of that guiding coalition in some of their cases, the organization does need to make available key players within the company to accelerate that change and sustain that change. They need to own, and we often see the anti-pattern that they think they don't need to own the change can be done to them. And if they work like that, then they're not, for example, when I go into an organization, I don't have those strong network of contacts. I'm not respected, I'm not an influencer, I'm not empowered, and I don't understand the company culture. But the folks within the organization do, like Magda, for example, and then they are empowered to make that change happen. And it's very, it's often the case that they do think they can have the transformation done to them. So an anti-pattern I have seen is the lack of involvement, lack of time and availability to maintain that momentum. Otherwise, what will happen, the change will drag, boredom will set in, and eventually it's likely to die off.
Meanwhile, there was some question from the audience, from Shatura. How you would suggest you approach management with agile transformation, who has no idea of the concept? Where you will start? Transformation is a team work across the organization, I believe. So to help Shatura, do you have some insights about how you can approach management with that transformation when that management has no idea of the concept?
So if the management has no concept, I think there's nothing much more real than the roadmap that Imbar was referencing earlier. And very upfront in that implementation roadmap, we talk about training people, we talk about a learning environment where and dependent on the skills you need to have, whether you're product managers, whether you're engineers, whether you're architects, whether you are Scrum masters, you start to understand the concepts around Agile, the framework around the SAFe itself. And I would say the most important thing is to start by having that training. And very often when I've worked with project managers who are moving into a Scrum role, the coaches are acting as coaches to those folks to help them to change their mindset and behaviors.
Yeah. Let us know, Shatura, if the answer helped. If you need anything else, let us know. But yes, we spoke about the anti-patterns. We spoke about how we can approach management. And in your opinion, what are some of the good patterns that we can talk about here for adopting Agile at scale?
So I think, of course, you could just look at the entire patterns that Nir talked about and think about the opposite of that. That will all be good patterns to work.
For sure.
But I think some of the things some of the things that I've seen specifically is, again, not instead of just thinking through this for years and how would we do it perfectly, train people, launch the trains, get started with transformation, and learn as you go. Because I see too many organizations who are trying to think and solve all the Agile problem and implement Agile in a waterfall way. That doesn't work. You have to start, you have to get going, you have to learn, you have to adapt based on your organization, and that solves a lot of the problems. I think another important pattern, and I saw somebody mentioned it in the questions, is around the concept of portfolios. People don't think about portfolios at all, or portfolios very late. When they're thinking about Agile, they're only focused on the teams or maybe a team of teams. And I think really thinking wider than that, thinking about what is your value streams? How do you organize around value? How do you budget around value? How do you continuously evolve the budget? How do you have the ability to change strategy mid-field? Not just a team that can change direction, but a whole company that can change direction. How do you map those value streams to understand where the delays are systemically, not just, for example, in IT, but across the whole process, not just focusing on technical issues, but looking at the entire thing that it takes to get business solutions out to the customer. I think really these are some of the best patterns that I've seen in the field. So really just getting going, starting a transformation, thinking about the portfolio, thinking about the flow of value, and organizing around it, then mapping it constantly to find delays, and then addressing those delays and using it to evolve and improve the implementation continuously based on what you find.
You're on mute, David.
Talking about budgets in bar, Petfrage is saying, I'm curious with this framework and the implementation you've seen. Do organizations maintain a yearly budget for their IT teams, or they're evaluating budget in a quarterly basis, for example, according to objectives and results?
So obviously it depends on the teams themselves. It's not I don't think that there's everybody's is the same evolution, but we've seen a lot of places that are moving to a more continuous evolution of budget and the evolution of that, and really thinking through creating OKRs and thinking about how do they evolve their portfolios. And I think there's a lot of that. Nero, what's been your experience in the field around that?
So my experience has very much been that we move towards 6-monthly budgeting, but we're budgeting the value stream, and we budget a group of people to deliver a product. But what gets delivered by the within the product is left as decisions by the product team themselves, working very closely with the business owners, and those business owners could be sales managers, account managers, who are the proxies for the end customers, who have the final say what should go into the product. But the budget is almost a bucket of funding that's made available, and on a regular basis the governance around it manages to ensure that the funding is spent on the right things.
Hope we help, Pedro Ferraz. And I think before we can jump into other question, I have here one from Luis Lopes regarding anti-patterns that Nero was talking about. Regarding anti-patterns and the mentioned before roadmap, how can we use safe portfolio to prevent the roadmap and milestones trap that can be constraints to flexibility, adaptation, and other goals and agile culture? Did you got the question, Neru or Inbar or Magda? You got the gist? How can we use safe portfolio to prevent roadmaps and milestone trapped that can be constrained to flexibility, adaptation, and other goals and agile culture?
I don't know if I understand the question very well, but I don't think that creating a portfolio roadmap or PI roadmap is an opposite to flexibility and adaptation. I don't see these two like completely opposite. I think if anything with Agile, you need to plan. There is planning in Agile, and you do need to plan. What we do, for example, in our organization, we don't necessarily plan to 100% of our capacity. We look at, yes, maybe the next PI, yes, we plan to 100% or even 120, just in case. But the future PIs on our roadmap, we plan to 80%, 60%, 40%. The further out you go, the less you have to plan. You keep that window open for anything new that needs to come in. So right now, yes, we have got PI roadmap planned out. We've got 4 PIs mapped out, but not at 100% of our capacity. I'd be surprised if your priorities and your roadmap was changing that often and changing drastically. I think there is a percentage of your capacity that you can confidently plan, and then you just keep a little bit of capacity open for last minute additions or any last minute changes. If I answered the question.
Yeah. Well, let us know if we answer correctly. So Magdalena, regarding your experience, which are some of the best learnings that you took since summer 2019?
Sure.
And by the way, one of the biggest challenge. Also, you can talk about both.
Okay, I'll talk about both then. I've got loads of learnings. I could be here the next 3 days with you.
Yeah, I believe.
But I'll try and choose just a few. And I've got a feeling that I'll repeat a lot of the things that Nero and Inbar were talking about already as well. I think the lesson number 1 would be make sure you train everyone. And I mean everyone in the organization. Train everyone, because everyone needs to know what safe is. It is such a big change, and it's so important because it is going to change the way the product operates, the way the technology operates, the way some business function operates, that everyone needs to know about it. Some people in your organization or some functions will need a specialist training. So for example, safe for POPM or safe for architect. But some roles or some people or some functions will only need some sort of SAFe 101, introduction to SAFe, and you can decide on that yourself. You know your business, you know who will need what. But make sure, you know, regardless of the role, that you train everyone so everyone is aware of SAFe and everyone has got the same understanding of SAFe. And one of the very first trainings that we run was leading SAFe. And I'll just touch on what Niru and Inbar were talking about. You absolutely have to train your leaders first. That's what we did. We ran 2 leading SAFe courses. The first one was for product and technology leaders. So we had about 20 to 25 leaders across product and technology. And we spent 2 days together learning about SAFe for the first time. Like, no one had a clue about SAFe before. But after that course, everyone really understood what SAFe is all about and what the benefits are and how SAFe is going to help us with our pain points. And what it really helped and did was it created an enthusiasm amongst that group of leaders. It created our first powerful guiding coalition. So a group of leaders who really understand the concept of SAFe, understand where we're going with it, share the vision, and they became our messengers, our change agents, people who would then go back to their own teams and share the same message with and the vision with their teams. So train everyone and train leaders first is the first lesson. The second lesson would be also, as soon as possible, train SPCs and set up your LACE team. The effort of, first of all, getting everyone to understand SAFe, but then embedding SAFe into organization, and the effort of managing change is huge. And as I said before, it's not the kind of an exercise that you do on the side of the desk. It's a full-time job, believe me. We're so busy in LACE that there's constantly loads to do. It is really a full-time job. And if you can, get yourself an implementation partner too. We work with RadTech, and they've really been the best. Initially, they basically, they almost became part of the LACE team. So yes, they were coaching us because we haven't done SAFe before, but they were also getting their hands dirty. So they were like an extension to the LACE team, if you like. So there was a small group of us implementing SAFe. And then the third lesson would be sell, and manage expectations. And what I mean by that is, first of all, sell the vision. You've got to be talking about SAFe all the time. You have to be selling SAFe to everyone in the organization. I'm saying that because it worked for us. You know, every conversation, every meeting, wherever you can, say that SAFe is coming, SAFe's going to fix this problem, SAFe is going to fix this, fix that. And if your exec can do it, then that's even better. You're just halfway there. You know, if your executive can share that vision and manage everyone's expectations, then that's you're halfway to your success. Because selling the vision and motivating people is really key. And in terms of managing those expectations, that's what our executive did really, really well. You know, delivering change is really hard. Any change, even if you think about your personal lives, just trying to get a new habit or eat healthier, whatever, it's really difficult to do. And if you set yourself a goal which is too high for you to achieve straight away, you'll just get demotivated, and you don't want that. So that's why managing expectations is so important. Setting it right from the start that, listen, guys, we're not going to get it perfect. We're not aiming for that. We're not going to get it right first time. The first PI planning is going to be chaotic and difficult. And it's going to take you probably 3 PIs before you actually get it. But, you know, done is better than perfect. And it leaves room for feedback, it leaves room for improvement, it leaves room for collaboration. So just make sure that you manage those expectations right as well from the start. I think this would be the top 3 lessons.
Yeah, totally.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, another one?
No, I've got no.
Sure, go ahead.
You also asked about the challenges.
Yeah, challenges, of course.
So I think one of our biggest challenge, and Nero can talk to that as well because she was there, was trying to deliver safe for teams training for over 200 people in one room. We did it. It worked, but it's not something that I would recommend. It's with the constraints that we had, with the budget that we had, with the choice of the venues around us, number of people, time constraints, it was the best that we were able to do. But if possible, it's best to split such a big group into smaller groups and run the training in parallel. So in our case, we had to launch 2 trains at once. We didn't have a choice of launching one train with, let's say, 10 teams and the other teams just doing what we used to do, because that would just didn't work for us. It would be a total chaos. So we had to launch both trains at the same time. We had to train everyone at the same time. But training over 200 people in one big room really lost the personal touch. There was a lot of people whose English wasn't first language, so you couldn't really like go to everyone and speak with everyone or give everyone a chance to speak. Just don't do it this way. Just make sure that you split your big group into smaller groups and
get the message right. Yeah.
So
regarding more questions from the public, before we have a final question for all of you. Psychological safety is paramount to promote any transformation. How do you see companies reevaluating their incentives models to engage leadership into those initiatives? It's a question from Fernando. So how do you see companies reevaluating their incentive models when you're talking about transformation?
One of the things I have seen companies do to build that psychological safety is to not have departmental KPIs. And very often there's departmental KPIs for one department versus another department tend to clash with each other. So they start to become very parochial with each other. So companies I'm finding are starting to throw those away for one. And we're looking at more the outcomes and the deliverables at an OKR level around the portfolio of deliverables from a value stream instead, as opposed to looking at individual incentives for leaders within departments. And if we actually look at the deliverables at an OKR level, objective key results, we then can translate those into actual deliverables and the KPIs for an epic, and the overall collaboration by an art or multiple arts to deliver those epics becomes a much better way of monitoring the deliverables and taking those personal incentives away. The two cannot sit alongside each other at all.
Yeah, hope that we answer your question. We have another one here. We still have some minutes to go before we end the webinar. Luis Lopes is asking, portfolio is important to have, but still having a roadmap wrongly implemented can create closed milestones that can prevent to achieve a culture of agile transformation. But using the percentage, I believe the answers, well, I don't know if I got the question here. There's some mispronunciation of the words. I don't know if Imbar, you were answering to Luis, right? Well, during the...
Sorry, David. Luis, this is the answer of Luis regarding the first question Magda asked. answered. Sorry. So this is
okay.
the comment on Magda's answer.
Perfect. Thank you, Paula. Thank you, Paula. We have another question. This one is for Magda. What were the most important benefits of implementing SAFe, and after what time they were visible? So some of the benefits you already explained for sure, but yeah, you can explain a little bit about the journey, what happened during the transformation.
Sure. So one of the very first objectives that we have given ourselves was to improve our predictability and quality. That was it. There was then the next objective coming up, which was about productivity. But the very, very first one was we have to become predictable. So if you remember my story, we were super chaotic. We were living in a chaos. There was a lot of ad hoc requests. The plans just weren't valid at all. There was no point in planning because everything was changing all the time. So we wanted to be able to go back to the business and say, this is our plan. We are going to deliver this by then, and full stop. And we wanted to deliver it by then. So we have improved on our predictability straight away after our very first planning session. So for those who don't know, in PI planning, you plan for the upcoming 4 or 5 iterations. So our teams and our trains gave commitment to their plans. And after the first PI, we achieved 90% of our predictability, which was an amazing result. It just motivated everyone so much. So that means that 90% of what we have committed to deliver, we've delivered when we said we would deliver, if that makes any sense. So that was the very first one. And then quality. We wanted to improve the code quality, the automation of our tests. We wanted to reduce the escape bugs. And we achieved that as well. I do have all the metrics. I don't have them at hand to share, but you've got to trust me. We've improved on all of those metrics. And I think it's really important to call out as well that since our first PI, we doubled the number of teams. So I think we launched 2 trains with about 15 teams. And then we almost doubled. So we have 30 teams today. So we doubled the amount of teams. We doubled the amount of people that needed to be trained to learn about SAFe. We almost doubled the amount of lines of codes that were being written. And our metrics are still constantly improving. So just to answer the question, predictability improvement and quality improvements, and visible straight away.
Okay, yeah. I hope we helped you with this answer, with sharing the benefits and the stories and some of the journey, which is very important. People don't want to know just about going A to B, but they want to know what's going on throughout the journey. We have here one question in the chat before we have also a closing part. This one is interesting. How does SAFe relate to a model like Scrum at scale? There is some experience with Scrum at scale in Bar, Nehru?
I don't have any experience with it, so I don't feel I can comment about it.
No, I don't directly.
Okay. Sorry, Aline. We didn't help you on that one. And we have another one here from Luis Lopes. Besides SAFe training, is there any other agile awareness initiative without going into deep into frameworks such as SAFe? Is there another initiatives like Scrum, Kanban that we can train people instead of going through SAFe at the first time?
I would say definitely yes. Again, if I understand the question correctly, if you haven't got an understanding of Agile within your organization, then start with Agile 101. And SAFe provides that training as well. So yes, definitely start with Agile 101, learn all about that. and then you can start introducing Scrum, Kanban. It all depends really on your personal situation, not personal, the company's situation.
Hope we helped,
I have to
Luis.
say that in most companies that I've seen, they are doing some basic agile awareness before their stuff is going, especially in the splash zone, that people around the trains, that people just want to know a little bit about what agile is to understand it. They don't want to be trained deeply, or they will maybe want to be trained deeply after they know. But I think there's sometimes the desire, and so I've done it many places. We've done short agile awareness sessions just so people understand where we're going into. I think it's very common.
And one of the things I've done before launching an art, if a train of people have just been very waterfall in their experience, is get them just to experience a couple of iterations in a Scrum way or in a Kanban way, just experience some of the team level events, the daily stand-ups, a retrospective and backlog refinement and all of those events at a team level, just experience them for a couple of iterations before they go into launching an art.
Perfect. So as a wrap up, any last learnings you want to share, cases, stories, successes, pitfalls with the audience? Eager to learn right now from you.
So I would say my greatest experience ever since I fell over the framework about 6 years ago was I've been in IT for almost 40 years, delivering IT solutions from all levels. And when I came across the framework, it really helped me to explain some of my past failures and also many of my past successes as well. And what the framework did for all my career and experience to date was it framed it. It gave me some formal science behind all the experience from the past. So I would say my experience has been a very successful experience with SAFe in that it crystallized a lot of my experiences from the past. And we don't say for no reason that the framework is very much based on best practice across organizations worldwide.
For me, I think there are so many case studies that you can find on the SAFe website, and I think you should find the one that relates best to your industry. I think one of the most interesting ones for me was as I was starting to get out of the IT groups and working more with either the business or one very big avionic company, where they were thinking, well, Agile is only for software people, it doesn't apply to my domain. And I think really helping people in adjacent groups, again, whether it's business groups or hardware groups or really big cyber physical systems, helping them see how they can draw value and from that was some of my more interesting success cases that drove really big changes.
And I guess maybe the last thing to add just from me would be just to echo what Inbar said earlier. Follow the implementation roadmap. Implementation roadmap is just a fantastic tool and incredibly useful and incredibly valuable. We've done it for the first time in eShop. I did it for the first time. We followed implementation roadmap step by step, and it was a fantastic tool. Lots of practical advice and guidance that you can get from the implementation roadmap. Just follow it step by step, and you'll be halfway there.
Thank you for all the learnings and sharing and being with you all during this last hour. I hope all the audience got all your answers, and I hope all these stories can help you in your new journeys, endeavors, and your jobs, because they were amazing. So thank you, everybody. Thank you for everything. I will just make a quick wrap up before we go. So we have another webinar in the end of March, 31st of March, same time, same place. who will you like to become a SAFe consultant, SPC? So it's question for the audience, and people that are interested to be an SPC should come to the next webinar. We'll have Suki Kang, she's a SPCT, Inbar Oren, which is already with us today, and to be confirmed, Tim Jackson, which is also an SPCT candidate. So 31st of March, 4:30 p.m. Lisbon time. And as always, check our courses schedules. We have Certified SAFe Agile Product Manager, Lean Portfolio Manager, Agilist Leading SAFe, and Program Consultant Implementing SAFe between April, June, and September. Go to theagilefingers.com for registration. Thank you once again. If you have any questions, let us know to info@agile21.com. If you have questions for the speakers, also let us know, or connect to them directly through LinkedIn. So they'll be very happy to help. It was grateful. Thank you, everybody. And I hope you have a great time. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.